Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from where you are. Welcome to today's session. This is our second session of belonging and inclusion in our community. It's a session that was inspired by children living with autism being harassed and bullied by the neighborhood. And I saw it's a good thing to have advocacy to the neighbors and also teachers around the community and in schools. My name is Irene Musau Magu, for those who don't know me. Most of the time, maybe you've met me through IELTA Kenya sessions. And now we've started the session with inclusive education, inclusion in the community. As a teacher of special needs education, I also felt it's good to have such sessions ongoing, both virtually and in person. Welcome so much to the session. And our speakers today are two. We're going to have Naigaga Kulusum, who is the founder of Neurodiversity Community Outreach from Uganda, who will share with us. Kindly let's mute as we join. And we're going to also have our other speaker, Richard Nyimbi, who is from the Department of Special Education, Winneba University, Ghana. Welcome all participants to the session. Kindly be muted as presenters do our presentation. We're going to have a session for questions and answers at the end of the presentations. But in case you have any question that is upcoming as the presentation is going on, you can always write it on the chat box so that we'll be able to respond at the end of the webinar. Welcome all to the session, and now we welcome our first speaker, who is Kulusum Naigaga. Welcome, dear. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from wherever you are. Welcome to this session. I am Naigaga Kulusum. I advocate for inclusion of neurodiversity. I am an author of the book Tread the Journey, which has practical guidelines on how to support children living with autism, ADHD, and other neurodivergent conditions. But the book can also be actually used by parents with any other child who is not neurodivergent. I am the founder of Neurodiversity Community Outreach Uganda. It is a newly registered organization with a vision of looking forward to an inclusive world which embraces neurodiversity with compassion. I'm here today to talk about or to share with you about the power of acceptance regarding inclusion. Our theme is inclusion, belonging to the community, and I'll take you through this session. We shall be following through, and then if you have any question, then they will come at the end of the session. So let me share my presentation, which is going to guide me on what I'm going to talk about today. I'm trying to get there to where the document is. Okay, inclusion and belonging in a community. The topic, power of acceptance in inclusion, by me, Naigaga Kulusum. Yeah, today on the 22nd. And now, looking at the theme, our theme, we have a number of key terms there. We have the word inclusion, we have a community, we have acceptance, and then belonging. So here we are talking about a sense of belonging. Now, first, we need to understand what all those key terms mean so that we can actually move together when we know what we are talking about. We start with inclusion. Inclusion means providing equal opportunities and resources to all people, especially those who might be marginalized in certain situations. As we move on, we shall see examples of individuals who are more likely to be marginalized. Sense of belonging. Here we are talking about someone feeling happy, feeling comfortable, feeling secure, being part of a group. For example, if you're in a class, you have to feel comfortable that you belong to that class. If you're at your place of work, feeling comfortable that that's where you are. If you are relating with your family, feeling comfortable and secure that you are part of that family. That is a sense of belonging. A community, it's a group of people living together. It can be people living in the same village, living in the same country, in the same home, in the same school. That is a community. But it can also actually mean people who share similar characteristics. For example, if you share the same profession, you're all doctors, you're nurses, you're teachers, you're engineers, then that is a community of engineers. If you share, maybe you're all students, then that is a community of students. If you're all, for example, business people, that is a community of businessmen and women or traders. So it can also mean that. Going to acceptance, what does acceptance actually mean? Acceptance means taking someone as they are. You take them the way they are, and then you live positively with that, thinking the good about them rather than thinking the negatives about what can come out of what they are. And you don't just end at taking them as they are, but you try and do your best to move with them and be there for them, support them in the best way you can, such that they can be able to achieve or reach their best. Understanding the theme. Yes, we have tried we have gone through the meaning of the key terms of our theme, but to summarize it, our theme, inclusion and belonging to a community, we are trying to talk about providing equal opportunities and resources to all individuals in the different places they live without segregation. And thereby, we make everyone feel respected and valued. So that is what we are trying to talk about today. When we talk about inclusion, the first thing that comes to our minds is special needs individuals. So first, let us know what a special needs person is. A special needs individual is anyone who usually needs additional support or extra support in dealing with the different aspects of life as compared to other people, the majority of the population. There are different examples of special needs individuals. For example, people who are physically disabled. Here we are talking about the lame, the blind, the deaf, the dumb, and other examples which fall in that category. Another category of special needs people are people who are living with intellectual challenges. There are people who are slow learners or may take long to learn, to understand, and maybe think about certain concepts of life. Others may be having a weak memory. So those are also considered special needs people. Another category are individuals who are neurodivergent. Neurodiversity, here we are talking about people who are created in different ways, that their brain works and does things in a certain way which is not so common to everyone around. And there are a number of conditions which fall under this. The first, we can look at autism spectrum disorder, whereby such individuals, they usually have challenges with social skills, they have difficulties with communication, and then they tend to engage in repetitive actions. The other condition is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Such individuals struggle with attention, and then most of the times they are hyperactive, so it is a disorder. Dyslexia, these ones usually reverse letters, like especially letters like the B, the P, letter P, someone may see it as if it's facing the other way around. And F, they might look at it as if it's facing upside down. So that is dyslexia reversal. There are also other characteristics, like they are sometimes also hyperactive. They may have issues with attention, but the main characteristic of dyslexia is reversal of letters. There is also dysgraphia. Dysgraphia, the graphics are like the way you look at something. It can be a picture, it can be a figure, it can be a letter or anything. So when someone has dysgraphia, they will not see the thing, they will not look at an image the way it actually appears. For us, as you're looking at a straight line, they may look at it as a bent line or a crooked something or a broken line somewhere. So that is dysgraphia. Then dyscalculia. These have challenges with mathematical skills, the additions, the countings, multiplications, and stuff like that, and many other conditions which fall under the neurodivergent individuals. So that is a special needs person. They need extra support because they have certain challenges they face in life, and you need to support them to help them achieve certain things. Now, does inclusion refer only to special needs individuals? When you talk about inclusion, usually the first thing people think about is, oh, they are talking about special needs people. They are talking about the physically disabled, the neurodivergent, the ones who have intellectual challenges, but that is not actually the case. Inclusion relates to anyone who would otherwise be marginalized in a given situation for whatever reason. Now, let us take an example of you enter a room, let me say, for example, a conference room, and the majority of the people there understand a certain language that is being used for presentation. For example, let's say they are speaking French and you don't understand French. You don't understand French. So if you go there and you're in that room and there is no way of translating for you or giving you something written down to make you follow through the conference, then you have been excluded. Despite the fact that you're not neurodivergent, you're not physically disabled, you're not having an intellectual disability, you have not been included in that situation. So inclusion is not only about special needs, but it is about any situation whereby someone or some group of people, minority group of people, would be marginalized for whatever reason. What does family play? What role does family play in inclusion? Now, when someone is born, the first place they belong to is a family. That is where we're born, that is where we are raised, and that is where we get our first support, our first care about everything. Inclusion should start at family level. If someone has certain challenges, then family should be the first to understand that person, to accept them, to give them the support they need. For example, in cases of autism, ADHD, the speech and language therapy, family is responsible for trying to get the providers of that service and also supporting that individual in the different challenges. If family does not do that, then it will be hard for actually other people to join in. Another role of family is that family should be the first one to set the example of not isolating, not segregating, and not stigmatizing an individual. Just imagine if you have a special needs, maybe child or adolescent or adult at your home, and you as family members, you're the ones who want to put them in a certain corner somewhere or lock them up in a room during a family function because you don't want that person to be seen by other people, then you're not being inclusive. You're not being inclusive in that sense. I heard of an experience of someone who said that they know of a family where there is a child living with autism, but then the parents of that child always buy new clothes for the siblings of that child, maybe during the festive season or during celebrations. And then what they do is that they get the old clothes of that child, of the other siblings, and give it to the special needs child. So imagine you as a parent, you're doing that, segregating your child. Then what do you expect from other people? They are going to be worse, okay? Stigmatizing. Imagine you're the family people and you're the one who are calling names to this person. The person is physically disabled and you're always labeling them as, you know, you're not able to do this, you're limp, you are limper, you move with sticks and all that. It's not good. So family, you should be the first to avoid stigma of the individual who is a special needs. Another role of family is that family should always be the primary source of information. Now, when you step out of family, you're going to go to other spaces of the community. For example, you go to school, you go to the market, to other relatives, and all other different spaces. So family members are the ones who are supposed to be the primary source of information. And how is that possible? Family needs to spend time with the special needs people. They need to give them their attention. They need to care for them. And with that, you can be able to identify the strengths of that person. You can be able to know their challenges. You can know their likes, their dislikes, so that if there is any other person who needs to support this person, then they can be able to get the right information from you, which can guide them on how they can actually support the individual. The role of family continued. The extent of inclusion that the family provides to a special needs person will determine many things. For example, one, the individual's progress in the different aspects of life. If you give these people support, then they can progress well, they can progress better. It can also determine the individual's confidence and self-esteem. If family is not stigmatizing someone, it's not segregating them, it's not isolating, you're not labeling and calling names, then that person will be more confident and will have a self-esteem. It can also determine the extent of inclusion in other communities outside the family. Just like I've mentioned before, when someone steps out of family, then they go to other spaces. So if family has not been inclusive, then it will actually be hard for other people to be inclusive of that individual. So family should always set the pace, and that should always be a good pace. Sometimes some families deny and they do not accept the fact that they may be having someone who is a special needs. And this is actually common for conditions, neurodivergent conditions like autism, ADHD, and the other examples that I mentioned before. Sometimes you might find that maybe one parent, if the mother and father are still together, you may find that one of the parent may accept and the other may continue denying. They are also. So if one parent is still denying, then it will still affect the degree and level of inclusion. This is actually quite common on the side of male parents, the fathers. Sometimes they tend to point a finger to the mother when they have a special needs child, whereby say, you know, this child, whatever is happening, I think it's from your family, and you know, many other negative comments can come up. So it is not good. If there is a child who is a special needs, then family, both the parents need to be positive about it and provide the best of support they can. Because when family continues denying, then it can be a barrier to inclusion. A message to the family. I urge parents and guardians to actually accept their children and be positive about providing as much support as they can to them. Now, moving to schools and institutions, other institutions of learning, whether it is a special needs school or a mainstream. A mainstream here, I'm talking about the common, the regular schools around, which are not special needs schools. Whether it is special needs or mainstream, inclusion starts with empathy. You need to first put, you as a teacher or a staff at that school, first try to think about this person. If it were you, or if that child was yours, or maybe your nephew or niece, then whatever you would wish that would be done to that person, then you do it for whichever child you get without segregating. Teachers are also urged to accept and understand every learner, because in your classes, you will have learners with different abilities, learners from different backgrounds. And if you do not accept them without segregating, then it will be hard for you to be inclusive. It's also good to individualize as a teacher. With individualizing, I'm talking about you looking at that specific child or specific individual. Look at them as an individual, know their strengths, know how they learn, know what they like, what they don't like, and then you try to adapt and adopt teaching methods and assessment methods which can be suitable for that specific individual. When you look at autism, there is a challenge in concentration, challenge in communication. So sometimes you find that sometimes these children are assessed in a way which is unfair, whereby you find that the child may give a definition or an answer, but simply because they have not used the best English that the teacher wants, then the teacher will deny that child a mark. That is not being inclusive. If you can find sense in that sentence, or you can find sense in that statement, then that child deserves a mark, because they may be having the information, but then they simply do not know how to put it in the way you may wish. As a teacher, it's also good to involve all learners in both classroom and co-curricular activities. In class, sometimes there may be storytelling, there may be discussion times, and if there is any person who may be a special needs, whether they are physically disabled, for example, maybe you have the student who is in a wheelchair, give them chance to discuss, maybe from wherever they are, but not be like, oh, this one is not going to manage to come to the front. If I do that, it's going to be an inconvenience to the class, things like that is not being inclusive. Thinking about the co-curricular activities, the football, the school projects, the trips, and all other things related in that way, it is good to involve all children despite their abilities. You can always find that one thing that they like, or two or three, and then you can focus and encourage them in doing that. And also encourage other learners to play and work together with that special needs person without being negative about them. And lastly, about this teamwork. With teamwork, sometimes you may find some teachers being positive, and then others indifferent, others are not really there. But working as a team will be much better to better support to an individual. Now, it is good to continuously enrich the knowledge of school staff about inclusion. And how can this be done? The staff can read books, they can find information from social media, online sessions like right now what we are doing, informal settings, like just having a chat with anyone who has maybe heard about inclusion. You can always learn something from there. Trainings and workshops. It's good if schools can always organize trainings and workshops to empower teachers about inclusion, because some of them may actually want to be inclusive, but then they do not know how to actually do it. Conferences, if there is a conference which comes up and it's about inclusion, then put in some time If you need some money and you're able, go and attend that conference. You can always learn something new. So at school, if teachers accept that all learners are created different, because it's actually so hard that you're going to find two learners who are the same. Just that most of the times when they are special needs learners, then there is a way some, not all teachers, but some teachers may have this negativity about them, thinking they may not be able to succeed, they may not be able to learn certain things. But if you accept that these people are actually there, but then they just learn in a different way, then you can be able to be more inclusive. Inclusion in society. Now, we are going away from family and school. We are looking now at the society around, the other spaces of life that we live in. Society has a mixture of people. There are those who have never even heard about inclusion. Some do not know what special needs mean. Others may know, but then they have a positive attitude. Some have negative attitudes. Others, I don't care, they're indifferent ones. Society has people of different backgrounds, different levels of exposure. So it's quite a complex and dynamic place. And in society, there may be individuals or people who have never actually dealt with a special needs person. And because they have not lived that experience, they may not really understand the struggles that such individuals and their families face. They may not know that someone will actually face a difficulty in communication or a difficulty in socializing, simply because they have not been there. And also because they've not been there, they may not understand that special needs people have strengths which are beyond their weaknesses or their struggles. They may, someone may only look at the other side, the negative side of the coin, but then they may not know that this person has certain things that they can really be very good. And society, some may have negative attitudes and myths, thinking that someone who is a special needs will forever be, dependent on people, will not actually succeed, will not learn. That is not a good mindset, but it is quite common in society. And there are those who may know, may have a positive attitude, but then they do not know how exactly to be inclusive. So that group also exists in society. So when you look at that picture, you're looking at those different individuals. It's just showing different colors and races, but then it's trying to show you that society is very diverse with different cultures, different backgrounds, different thinking, different ages, and all that. But then how can we get there to create an inclusive society? These are my thoughts. The first one, sensitization, talking about these things. I mean, we need to talk about inclusion continuously, make people aware that it can be done, it's possible. Awareness question, talking about the physically disabled people, that they can also be able to, get there in life if they've been supported. Talking to society about ADHD, autism, dyslexia, intellectual challenges and all that. And then building capacity. How do you build capacity in society? This online session is a way of capacity building because, it can open up your mind, and that inclusion means I need to accept, I need to be positive, I need to do something to help these people. Trainings, a good way of capacity building, workshops, conferences, and many other things that I've talked about before. So with that, gradually, society can become more accepting and inclusive. Just thinking aloud, it may take time to build a fully inclusive world, but step by step we shall get there. Trade the Journey. This is my book, the book which I authored. It is a practical guide to supporting children living with autism, with or without autism and ADHD. Just like I said, it's more of a parenting guide. Any parent, any child can actually benefit from it. So with Trade the Journey, let us build an inclusive world together. Thank you for listening. Any questions are welcome right now. Thank you, Margot, and thank you everyone who has been there during this session.
Wow, thank you so much, Kulusum. That was a very nice session. And now we welcome our second speaker, who is Richard Nyimbi from Ghana. He's in the Department of Special Education, Winneba University. He's going to be taking us through practical ways to combat bullying, discrimination, and stigmatization. Then after that, we're going to have the questions at the end. So maybe you can note them down so that you don't forget. Thank you. So Kulusum will assist on the moderation as he does his presentation. Right. Welcome, Richard.
Good day to my side. Good afternoon to everyone. From my side, we are 316. So good afternoon to everyone. As introduced earlier, my name is Richard Nyimbi from Ghana University of Education, Winneba. And I'm your second guest speaker for today. And I'm actually coming on to, like my other sister said, I have to briefly go over all my things because of the time factor. Because I've realized that she touched some part of my side, and that is very interesting. To the topic I'm actually trying to speak on, it's practical ways to stop discrimination, stigmatization among children with autism in inclusive environment. More interested or specifically on school children. I think to start with, very quick, I have a point that explains the whole thing to be create awareness and understanding. You know, to our children or our parents that are having children with disability, we need to let them get the hint of how to understand or take care of their children when it comes to bullying or discrimination or maybe stigmatizing them in terms of either being in their colleagues or public or a community gathering. So how then can we establish this creating of awareness and understanding to parents and some of the teachers or other quality students? Yes, it by starting with to teach students about autism in simple children friends language. Then you can explain differences in communication, behaviors, and learning styles. There are some children which actually doesn't understand how their colleagues learn. Like she was much interested in this dyslexia and dyscalculia and dysgraphia. Yes, at length when this particular example, sorry, I'll keep repeating it. When I was on campus, we were asked to go out for outreach to do some assessment. So when we went on a particular school, I think we were assessing a particular child who was autistic child. So this child, the police wasn't know how to speak or how to relate to the child, the behavior of the child in the class. When it comes to the classroom activity, this child wouldn't like to see or be in class with them. The child would take the side to go and sit somewhere. So they decided to go and sit with the child, but the child wouldn't like it. Once they come close, then the child will move away. Even when teacher is teaching, the child will always be in class, but looking at what the teacher is teaching, but there wasn't action that the teacher could get from the child. So we have to try our best to be able to explain the difference in their communication, their behaviors and learning styles. We have to use stories. Most of the time, the pictures and some of the communication boards, the short videos to promote their empathy in the classroom. Allow students to ask questions in a respectful environment. Yes, there are some students when their colleagues are, maybe he is the autistic child in class, but the colleagues, whenever the child, maybe the person decides to ask a question, maybe if there is either external noise in the class or their colleagues are trying to, whenever he asks the question, the colleagues will be trying to at least make them or make that child, particular child, feel as if he doesn't know what he's asking in class. That will try to bring the child down. So that is when we term all over that we are trying to talk about the discrimination and the stigmatization. Yes, the person might ask the question and you know how they act. That could have even brought either the laughter or maybe some kind of actions that could let the child not ask any question in class. So looking at it, we have second one, that's organized inclusion day. Yes, we need to make sure that we always organize the inclusion days, which we can celebrate diversity and uniqueness to encourage activities that promote kindness and teamwork. Yeah, we need to have an activity that could involve all of them since we are practicing inclusion. If there is an activity that could involve all of them in a school setting or environment setting, from there they will get to know their differences and how to share the language in terms of what discussion or maybe when they are into any communication. Then I'll move over to my second point that speaks out promote positive school culture. Yes, there should be positive school culture among the children and the teachers. That is what we call on for establish a zero tolerance. That is by bullying policy, so that the colleagues will be aware that no bullying, no stigmatization, and no discrimination either in school or environment or maybe in the community. Yes, from there we have clear rules on what counts as bullying, teasing, or exclusion. Yeah, we should have a clear rule. That's rules that to other college students that there should be what? There shouldn't be a bullying, teasing of other colleagues who are autistic or maybe with different conditions or exclusion. Then we move further to look at consistent consequences for bullying behavior. Yes. So when we look at that, then we can now encourage kindness as part of school values. So that it should be part of maybe most especially it should be in the school curriculum. That could let the teachers be able to explain better to their children who are not, let me put it that way, who are not specifically good in what? Let me put it like autistic children who are not, but so that they can have a relationship with their colleagues once it encourage kindness as part of what school value. They will look at create positive or create postures, slogans, or class rules about respect and acceptance. Yes, if there are some posters that could show, there should be a slogan.
Richard, are you still there or it's from my end? I can't hear.
I can also not hear him.
We lost him. Technical hitches.
I don't know whether he has muted himself.
No, he's not muted.
Not muted?
Yeah, maybe it's technical hitches. So before he comes back, we can have at this session Dr. Mukholi Lutta, who is from the Ministry of Education and Special Needs Education, giving us a review of the first session. And she'll also do the second session after Richard is done. Welcome, Dr. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margot, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you from my side.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Margot. And to the rest of us, I may not be able to mention your names. I am happy to always listen in. My name is Shila Mukholi Lutta. I am an Assistant Director of Education in the Ministry of Education, Directorate of Special Needs Education, Kenya, and a friend of this platform. And so I always like partnering, listening in, and learning, because learning, especially in this disability atmosphere, is a continuous process. No one gets it all, no one knows it all. So I want to thank you so much, Kulusum. I hope I've pronounced your name well. Kulusum,
Yes.
for the
Okay.
presentation. What I noticed that it was very precise and precise but broad, and that was very important, because inclusion is beyond disabilities. Inclusion in education, in the social setting, in the community, inclusion while undertaking policies, dissemination and implementation is beyond disabilities. The first instances where we spoke about inclusive education, we majorly leaned towards disabilities. But as it turns out now, inclusion is beyond disabilities. Inclusion touches on language, inclusion touches on access, physical access, emotional access, inclusion touches on geographical settings or access, hard to reach, marginalized, and other aspects. The way our sister brought it out, she did a good job, and it is good to involve every relevant stakeholder in inclusion across all sectors. It is actually a multi-sectoral approach. And so congratulations for the good presentation. You did a good research and prepared early enough, and that is why you did not even stutter. You did not even stutter. And I believe that the participants have benefited a lot. Now, I just bring in an aspect of language of reference when we are talking about persons with special needs and disabilities. So we will be talking about a person with physical impairment, a gentleman with visual impairment, a woman with hearing impairment, a lady, a child. So because we have ratified global, regional, and our national policies, it is good for us to check on our language of reference, where when we are talking about disabilities, referring to persons with disabilities. So we would shy away from words like disabled, physically disabled, or visually disabled. We prefer a person with visual impairment, a lady with physical impairment, someone with special educational needs or special social needs or special mobility needs, because it is out of a disability that I develop a special need. I require a special need because of the barriers that I'm facing due to my functional disabilities. So we can talk about mental disabilities, but not mental disabled. We can talk about physical disabilities, hearing disabilities, learning disabilities, specific learning impairments, and that would make our work sound global. Advocacy has brought many things. Personally, I don't use the word differently abled because it is a stigma in itself. I'd rather say I'm a lady with visual impairment instead of saying Sheila is working with a lady who is differently abled. Then who is abled? Who is rightfully abled, or who is correctly abled? But that is a discussion for another day. Thank you so much, Margot. These sessions are very important, and I just pray that on each or in each instance, we'll have more people coming in, bringing together East Africa, West Africa, Africa, and other continents. We also want to create our own solid platforms where people can learn from us. We have borrowed so much from outside our countries, and I'm happy to see such initiatives which allow our very own across the ages and across the professions working towards an inclusive society. So thank you so much and congratulations. Today I'm a participant. I don't want to turn into a presenter. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. That was awesome. And thank you for always giving us support. And as you've said, we pray that this belonging and in a community is going to go far, and the goal of inclusion will come to term. I can see Richard is back. Richard, you can have maybe 5 minutes and wind up your session. Then those who have questions, you can start writing them on the chat box so that the presenters will be able to answer them, or any other person in the forum will be free to answer. Richard, welcome back.
I think, sorry for the inconvenience. My phone was overheated, so it went off automatically. But I'm back with the 5 minutes. Let me wrap up. Yes, I was on encourage kindness as part of school values. So with this practical knowledge, I believe we should try our possible best to be able to give a reward positive to the behaviors through certificates or praise. That could let our children among themselves to be able to relate well, so that there will not be much discrimination or stigmatization against those that are either autistic or do any of the conditions. And from there, I will go through to look at looking at strengthening teachers and staff training. There should be training teacher or training teachers on autism friend classroom strategy. That is understanding sensory needs, behaviors, or behavioral triggers. Yes, there are some that once they are in class and maybe the class is so conducive with their colleagues, if there's no any external noise, or maybe they are all seated, they'll be okay. But once someone outside, either being disabled or not, has been able to trigger some behaviors, from there, DH must also rise up, and that could bring something different in class. So I could be very pleased if the teachers can be trained on autistic friend classroom strategies. Yes, we have. From there, we can have teacher staff how to identify early sign of bullying. From there, we can have change in what behavior. Yes, once the person sits in class, maybe some quiet minutes, you could realize maybe the person is, you are on the board teaching, while turning back, you see that the person is doing something else, that the person doesn't pay attention. You are talking to the class, the person sits without showing any sign of what action or maybe understanding. The person is not ready to ask or raise up the hand. You asking a question, are you getting me? Maybe he or she is seated with that mind, or maybe showing any concern. I think this could be one of the signs to maybe to identify what the bullying. They will have refusal to attend school. Yes, I know of that particular guy. I always said I'll be repeating his example. Yes, there will be a day, or maybe if there's a school day, how they will have to go out from the campus to go and bring this child to school. After maybe it will not be time for closing. If they are not monitoring, it will leave before it will be closing time. So if this what maybe refusal to attend school, when you try to monitor it, I think it will also bring things in the what normal place. They will have what other one has withdrawal or fear of the certain what student. Yes, they fear their colleagues purposely because they do not see what their colleagues are doing as something meaningful. I could realize when we enter the classroom to interview this guy, we have to force to try our best to be able to put the biscuit in the mouth of the child. Not even as I'm saying, it's more than 18 years as he's speaking now. So we try to put the biscuit to convince him so that he can have some actions for us to have the assessment or to get our results. So from there, we have create supportive classroom environment. That is where we have what? Peer students using peer body system or body system. So when you look at it, you have a responsible, consonant, can help the child with autism with activity that is reduce isolation and what encourage what friendship. And from there we have use flexible sitting and censoring tools. Yeah, they should be flexible. I think that particular they have been able to train him at a particular area. Whenever he comes to class or he comes to class, he always goes to sit there. It doesn't change the sitting place. Even when he's going and you are at the sitting place, you have to quickly leave there. He might at least maybe with a sign of not maybe trying to behave or talk, he might do you something that you wouldn't like. Then we'll have to get a what fidget what toys so that they can be playing with them. As I said, maybe there should be what communication board. To my last point, in order to conclude the whole thing, there should be what they should provide safe reporting channels. That should be what allow students to report bullying through. Yeah, these are the way we can have students or teachers reporting their bullying. Either the student can report it through their teachers, is suggested or suggesting boss, or they can have school counselors, a trusted staff member, or to make reporting safe. That will be confidential and free from punishment. From here, I think I've wrapped up with my conclusion by telling the parents on the show that they should make sure that they have all this kind of what care for their children. Was that particular child I just spoke about, the parents wouldn't bring him to school. They have to go and pick him from the house and let him come. So let's show that kind of care and love for the children who are autistic so that they can also join their colleagues on time. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Richard. And sorry for the technical hitches. We really appreciate your support. For those who joined in late, our first speaker was Dr. Kulusum from Uganda. She's the founder of Neurodiversity Community Outreach. And Richard Nyimba is also from Department of Special Education, Winneba University in Ghana. And we had our reviewer, who is Dr. Lutta from the Ministry of Education and Special Needs Education. We've come to the end of the session, and this time is open for questions. Word of gratitude, feel free to raise up your hand or you write on the chat box. Welcome all.
Excuse me, Marco.
Yes.
I can see two questions from Ndaye. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it well. Ndaye. Yeah, she has typed two questions. The first one is, I don't know if you can be able to view it there.
No, I think she did a private. I think she did a private message.
Ah.
Yeah,
okay, so do I respond here or?
Yes, okay. Go ahead and read the question and respond, please. Thank you.
So her first question is, how will you handle the child with autism but malnourished, yet unable to talk, but very irritable, that he can bite himself or hit his head hard on the wall? Let me read it again for better listening for other people. How will you handle a child with autism but malnourished, yet unable to talk, but very irritable, that he can bite himself and hit his head hard on the wall? So now, looking at this question, there are several things. One, we are looking at malnutrition. So with malnutrition, so the child has to be treated like independently, giving the child like foods which are rich in proteins, foods which are a balanced diet, vitamins and everything else that they could be missing in their diet causing the malnutrition. If the parent is not so sure about what could be the problem, then they need to take this child to a healthcare provider. So the healthcare provider can assess and know what is required to treat the malnutrition. Next in this, we are looking at this child not being able to talk, and then they're also irritable. Now, supporting children living with autism, one of the interventions is speech and language therapy. It is part of early intervention, intensive early intervention. Children living with autism, as soon as they get a diagnosis, it is very much recommended. Actually, it's recommended that intensive early intervention is started. In that, there's speech and language therapy, there is occupational therapy, there is in different things like being able to behave appropriately and so many other skills that are trained. So if this child is enrolled on early intervention, intensive early intervention, then their speech can improve, their irritability can reduce, and some of those risky behaviors can also improve. The other question is, do autism children understand issues the same way as normal children, but their response is just slow, or they take long to analyze issues? She's trying to ask that do children living with autism understand issues the same way as the neurotypical? It's actually always better to use not use the word abnormal normal, but we can say the neurotypical children. She's trying to ask that if they understand issues the same way as neurotypical children, or are they just slow, or do they take long to analyze things? Responding to that, looking at autism, autism is a spectrum. That's why it is referred to as autism spectrum disorder. It means the different individuals living with autism are different. There are those who have mild autism, moderate, severe, and so many who lie in between. And every individual or every child has their own unique strengths, their own challenges, their own things they like, and everything else around them as an individual. So there are those children living with autism who will actually understand issues the similar. I don't think it can be exactly the same, because even amongst the neurotypical, I don't think there's anything like the same. Similar way, let's say similar way. They can understand things the similar way as the neurotypical children. But then there are those who will understand the same things, but if they have been taught in a different way which suits them. So that is where sometimes we fall short, or people fall short, that this child living with autism may be better at learning what the practical way, or may be better at learning using papers, writing down, or through pictures, or through visuals like on screens. But then we may want to teach them, or the teachers may want to teach them the same way as all the other children. So if they don't get things, then the teacher or any other person may think this child will not understand the things. So it all depends on the child. And then it also all depends on how they have been supported. If they are given the support to suit them as an individual, then they can always learn the things, in a better way. I think that answers these two questions. Yeah, thank you, Margot. That's what I had here in inbox.
All right,
thank you very
so
much.
Any other person who has a question, so that we don't lock you out before we finish the session? I can't see any other questions on the group. So somebody had also asked about the recording. I'll share it on after converting it to YouTube, so you'll be able to access it. Then this is our second session from the time I got inspired. Actually, my inspiration came from our community. We have also parents here from our community, that is Hazina Estate in South B, where we had children being bullied by others. And it really touched me. And I said, since I'm in the special needs education, I think advocacy will really work well. And it's also something that is encouraged to teachers who are in maybe inclusion schools to also get to learn such things and be able to know how they'll handle these learners as well. And also our workmates and everywhere. As Dr. said, when she began the session, she mentioned community is not just your estate or your family, even your co-workers are all community. Even us right now here, we are a community. So let's embrace that and have respect to one another, and we shall have a better life for everyone. So thank you so much for joining. I've shared my email. In case you're not in the groups, you'll send there your email number and I'll be able to send the recording to you. Then in future, if you want to be one of our speakers, you can also save them. This is a big journey and I look forward to us growing together. And I'm also cooperating with the Dysclasia Community Group in Tanzania and my miles in Uganda. So maybe by mid next year, we're going even to have a conference on inclusive education. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone? Don't send on the chat box, send the email on my email, what I've shared, because I won't be able to see this after end the session. Do you have any other person who has a word to say? Thank you. Insightful. Thanks from Kenya. Thank you, Mushai. Then I can acknowledge the presence of Dr. Judith, who we've been working again together from LPAC, Kenya. So Dr. Judy, maybe you can say something.
Thanks, Margot. Enjoyed learning, especially about the terms, and especially even the last part that has been done on autistic children. Thank you so much. When I find time, I'll be joining because learning is continuous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Judith. Okay, we can call it a day. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you. I can also see someone from South Africa. Thank you for joining.